This is an excerpt of One of Four by Aesop Rock. I guess it's kind of funny when you look at it from a step back. How one man can literally buckle under the same pressures other men operate normally under. I have scoped this out for myself from all the angles multiple times. I've been over everything in my head till I can't think anymore. But I guess sometimes when you can't breathe, there are people there to breathe for you. I am lucky enough to have those people around me in my life. Thank you for helping me to not die. Thank you for helping me to not die.
The program you are about to hear is fiction, science fiction. We make no guarantees, however, how long it will remain fiction, fiction, fiction.
Friendly salutations, Cognonauts. Welcome back to another episode of Exofathom, where we dare to explore the fringes of thought. As always, I guess sometimes, I am your host, Mike, and I'm always joined with my two lovely co-hosts, Nick and Ayla. How y'all doing?
Happy Friday, man. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm hanging in there, man. You know me as always.
Yes,
Ayla,
sir.
how you doing?
I think I could characterize myself as feeling lovely today. I love that we always call each other lovely. It's lovely. No,
Yeah,
I'm good. I'm good.
You've never used that word to describe anybody else?
I don't think so. I think it's exclusive to this circle of friends.
Clicky language. A little dangerous. No, I'm
Of
just kidding.
course. No.
Well, that's awesome. I'm happy you're doing well. Happy you're feeling lovely. Yeah, it's Friday, and I think tonight I want to take I guess like a chill conversation and just look at friendship as a whole, which is kind of funny because it's one of the harder questions in philosophy. But well, I guess to open this off, what's a friend in your mind? What do you think a friend is?
Well, it would seem as though that's an easy question to answer, but I don't know. I think there's probably so many layers of it, and it's also very personal. But I guess a friend, in my definition, would probably be somebody that you treat as family. And that's used loosely because obviously people treat their family pretty poorly. So
Yeah, I was gonna say
maybe somebody, I guess, as you should want to treat your family. Maybe that's the best way to say it.
like some sort of golden rule thing, like you treat your like your friend treats you like they would want to be treated or something like that.
Yeah, certainly. I think that there's definitely that reciprocity as well. I think, there's something familial about it. Maybe obviously everybody's different. So I don't know if you could pinpoint it to just one thing. So I'll just stop at that and see what Ayla has to say.
Oh gosh. Yeah, it's an interesting question. Before I answer it, I do want to share with the listeners something that I thought was a little bit serendipitous. We are doing our episode on friendship, and Nick and I like to make tea prior to our conversations. And sometimes those tea bags have like a little piece of paper with a quote on it. This one is from Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and it says, "Friendship is a sheltering tree." So that's one definition from Samuel. As for myself, I think that I'm going to take kind of a reserved approach here. So friendship often gets qualified. You know, you have best friends, frenemies, fair weather friends, close friends, extended friends. So I think in that case, friendship or friend, it really is just describing perhaps a good-willed relationship with somebody who's not a blood relative, because that's a family member. So it would just be, yeah, a relationship between two people that is good. Because, like, even in the case of a frenemy, you're using enemy to change the meaning. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to go with.
Wow, how
Careful.
explanatory.
Very.
No, I've been really diving into like weird definitions and antecedents and sort of like what does a thing mean if it can be changed by words before and after it, and pondering that kind of stuff. So
Well,
you're catching me on a weird week.
yeah, definitely hit the nail on the head with like a goodwill thing as we try to break down whatever a friend is. But it correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like both of y'all's statements just a little bit like nebulous. Like we're a little vague or like trying to figure out what this friend thing is.
Well,
Like-
what's your
like-
Yeah.
definition?
Come on, Miriam.
Oh, if I had friends, I would tell you. No, I'm just kidding.
Damn. Take umbrage with that statement. Good sir.
Yeah, what is a friend? That's actually in my mind one like a good question because I never frame it like that. I always frame it like, is this person my friend or is that person my friend? That sort of thing.
So you have like a more contextualized basis for your definition.
No, not really. It's just as nebulous. It's just as like
Welcome to the club.
yeah, because this what's interesting is that this friendship thing ends up being, I feel like, a little bit of magic. There's something happening here that either we don't care to observe or we don't want to observe. One of those two things, just to keep it, keep the mystery alive or keep the spectacle alive.
Yeah. If it was. Oh, sorry. Go. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Go for it.
Oh no, I was just thinking. Yeah, I think you hit it there with that sort of qualia that is a little bit intangible. Because if friendship was a mechanical thing, any two people could be friends with each other, and we know that that's not really the case.
It's interesting. Do you think there's a mechanics of friendship?
I think there is a certain level of requirements to meet for sure, but I think there's more chemistry than. Like the mechanics are to maintain the friendship, but the chemistry is like the thing that we're kind of talking about, that intangible thing that draws people together.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, and that works a long line with like kind of like I guess my definition of a friend. Yeah, I guess that that person that you're willing to stick your neck out for. Like I guess I don't know if that's a good definition of like friendship. You can say like it's like two people that are willing to stick their necks out for each other for the good of the other.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're slowly starting to work towards Aristotle. What's kind of interesting is that Aristotle builds this basis of what friendships are. And then it doesn't really get played with for hundreds of years. Like nobody really looks into this. Some people do, and there's some emerging philosophical research, especially with connections over to say like morality systems and things like that. Like, can two people with opposing morality systems become friends? But the first thing you have to figure out is like, what is friends? So yeah, no, I think it just means somebody. For me, it means somebody that you're willing to stick your neck out for, regardless. And this sort of becomes like this nebulous thing. Becomes really difficult to define, even with Aristotelian backing, even with more modern backing. You could say something like Kant. Kant, with regard to friends, Kant would be like, two friends shouldn't use each other. The Aristotelian sense, they use each other. This is friends by utilitarianship. Yeah, so I guess we could dive in because now I'm working my way into the 3 faculties of friendship. So you have friends by like utilitarianship, where let's say I could provide you a good, you provide me a good, and we hang out because we could provide each other some sort of work. Then there are friends by pleasure, meaning like it's pleasant to be around you. I enjoy your company. But those two friendships seem to be very vapid. They never really last too long. Why do you think that is? Why like friendships of utilitarianship or just through utility? So think about like colleagues, coworkers,
Wait,
things
wait,
like
wait.
that.
What's the third one though?
He's
I'm
leading
gonna
up to
hold.
it.
I'm
He's
leading up to it.
Yes.
But the question that I want to ask first is that these two systems of both utilitarianship and pleasure are vapid in the end. But why do you think that is? Or does that work for you? Do you hang out with the people that you find kind of pleasant, but then that's it? There's no deeper connection there. Or it's like somebody that you trade
Yeah,
goods for services or services for. Are you still friends with like those types of people over decades?
I'll take a hippie stance on this one. So, in a lot of different circles, if you're at a yoga class or drinking some kombucha at the local juice bar or whatnot, you might hear some discussion about how there's really 2 universal human emotions, fear and love. And that everything's sort of an extension of that. You can boil anything down to fear or love.
Oh, my sweet summer child.
Well, I know that I preface this with the hippie stance because it's not like I believe this 100%, but I do like the concept when you're trying to think about motivation or when you're trying to contextualize feelings or whatever, to sort of like try to just break it down to its source, simplest sort of feeling. And so I think that with both utilitarian friendship and pleasure friendship, it's operating from a place of fear. And it's not kind of this like purity friendship, right? Because with utilitarian, it's a little more quid pro quo. Why would you need someone to scratch your back? Or why would you scratch someone's back under the assumption that you too might need that one day? It's a fear thing. Same with pleasure friendship. It seems to me that like, if you're, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess it could be fine. But if you're sort of like, being vampiric and you're like hanging out with these people to get a boost, it's like, well, what are you running from? So I think for both of them, there's a little bit of this feeling that there's sort of like unpure motivation, that there's not like this undercurrent of platonic love that's kind of connecting them.
Okay, so it lacks like a grounding essence. Like the grounding essence is that platonic love.
I think.
Okay, so like then like usually through pleasure, it's some sort of superficial thing like you make me laugh or something like that, or I think you're foolish, so I enjoy hanging around you to watch you do foolish things,
I mean, I
or
would
I hang
even
out around you because I find you aesthetically pleasing, so for beauty reasons, or any sort of like yeah, those pleasure things just all fall apart within a few weeks because that gets boring.
I think both relationships are utilitarian. I mean, one is just less reciprocal than the other. You have the transactional relationship in which hopefully 2 people are benefiting. But if the pleasure relationship, if the other person's not receiving an equal amount of pleasure, it becomes, like Ayla said, a sort of vampiric thing. And then it's just utile to the person that's getting more from the relationship.
Continue.
Oh yeah, no. So I just do think that that there is an element of utility that is fickle. That probably is what sort of separates those characteristics or classifications of friendship. Is that they are conditional. They change upon condition. I don't like you anymore. I don't think that you're funny, so I'm not going to hang out with you anymore. I don't like the stuff that you're trading with me anymore, so I'm not going to trade with you anymore.
Ooh. Regained it like this is actually a problem of friendship called fealty. Basically, the notion is like I can replace you with a different asset. So, for example, I found a funnier friend. You're not as funny, deuces.
Yeah.
Which
And-
happens so much when
It
you
does.
think about like other synonyms, not synonyms, but like other words for funny. You know what I mean? Like you think about.
Well, if you take it to like a love context, it becomes very apparent of like you're not, for people who are vapid, you're not as pretty. So now I'm going to go find the prettier person. Or you don't make as much money. So I'm going to go find the other person that makes more money.
Or
Yeah.
you were pretty, but I just got tired of you.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
like,
got
that's
tired
just-
of you.
Damn, Nick.
bored.
That's what we're talking about.
No, I know. I know. It's just so like harsh.
I'll be real with you. One of my favorite things that one of my exes told me, she just goes, Mike, I just want to probably the most intelligent woman I ever fell in love with. She was just like, look, I just want to tell you that I get bored of people very quickly. So that's on you. You have to keep me like entertained.
Well, yeah, that's
And
where
I
she
was-
goes wrong, right?
Yeah, yes and no.
People who
like-
get bored easily are boring.
Ah,
So
that's
you know.
what is that line from that song? If you're bored, then you're boring.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's an old saying.
I was about
My
to-
grandmother used to say that to me all the time. I would get bored. She'd be like, "Well, don't be boring then."
You know, and then in philosophy, that's ends up being pretty true, and especially in poetry, it's like if you're bored, then it's because you're doing boring things. If you don't write poetry, if you're bored with poetry, it's because you're not poetic enough to find something to write a poem about.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, loser.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's that grandma truth for you.
But what's funny is that like we're getting on these like frugal things, but it turns out that even some friendships that reach deeper can still have this vapid moment. Did I get both of y'all answers about this? Like you said, it was more utilitarian based.
Oh, I went off in the deep end on some fear versus love
Fear
discussion
versus
as
love.
sourcing the
Oh.
motivations behind options 1 and 2 while I desperately
So-
yearn for option 3. It drives me nuts when someone says there's 3 of something and they don't tell you the third thing. I'm like,
Wow.
can't contextualize.
Maybe we won't ever tell you.
I know, right?
That's
Yeah.
it. Good night. Good night. I'm not participating no more.
Hanging and holding on in quiet desperation is the British way.
This is ceasing to entertain me. No, I'm cool. I can hold my
You can hold. You can.
suspense.
Yeah. Hey, I'm trying to be the podcast version of Hitchcock here. I got to keep that suspense rolling and rolling.
As I can tell with the leaning back in the chair. That's like a total power move.
Yeah. So here is 2 out of the 3 forms of friendship. What is the third?
A
No, but
sheltering tree.
so I find this fear and love dynamic sort of interesting. I would want to make an argument that it's not fear, but rather hate that lies on the opposite end of love.
And some people think hate is just a byproduct of fear. So we could go down that route if you want, but
I think hate is love. You can't hate
That's-
something without loving it.
That's what I think it is, too.
Ooh.
I think hate and love is the same emotion, just
Mhm.
2 sides of the opposite coin.
Definitely.
Mhm.
But no, so yeah, I get the fear and love thing and how it all sort of breaks down each other. I don't know if friendships of pleasure are based out of fear though, nor maybe mixed in with the problem of fugality. But the third one,
Well, here's a
I guess
question.
I don't have a really good response for you because like I feel caught up in argument. I feel caught up in thought when I think about that.
Hmm.
Or when I want to say something, it doesn't form to anything concrete to reply to you.
Well, let me ask you a question because it might be something that maybe that's what's going on in your head. But like, what's the difference between a friendship and like a survivor type of alliance? That would be sort of the utilitarian type of friendship, no?
Proximity. So there's also
Proximity?
proximity friendship, right? Where you become friends with people at your work, you become friends with people that you go to places at all the time. And then when you stop working at that spot, you stop being friends as much.
I never had a
That's-
ruder awakening than a
that's
coworker
super.
friend.
Yeah, that's
Like just
super.
disappeared after we left.
Oh, it's a
Uh,
lot better when when you get a nice little like a new vertebrae in your back, but it just kind of sticks out. There's like a hilt of the vertebrae out sticking out of the middle of your back.
Talking about like
Like-
having a chip on your shoulder?
More like a knife in the spine.
Oh, a stabbing in the back. Oh,
Right.
yes. Ides of March and such.
Nah, yeah. Et tu, Ayla, et tu. Yeah, like yeah. Like the third form is supposed to be virtue of character. Like we're friends because we find something very deep within each other that we respect and can work off of each other. It's the idea that you and I have, or us, like any of your friends, have, the same set of binding principles that run your life. And those are the friendships that are supposed to last forever, according to Aristotle, because they're friendship via virtue. One of my
Aristotle didn't get moved around as a kid a lot, huh?
probably not.
I was thinking about this because we're gonna have this conversation. And I was like, damn, dude, like I think around 13, I had moved to, I was already in like 6 different schools. And I didn't really get to form an actual solid friend group until about 13 or 14.
You wanna know?
yeah.
You wanna know how this idea came up? Funny enough, I was talking to probably one of my best friends, a really good friend of mine. I've known him since college, and we were discussing just about how people come and go from our lives, and how do we handle that as somebody who is introverted and try to, like, introverts tend to build like depth-based relationships rather than breadth-based relationships. So you can introduce an introvert to like 100 people. They will focus in on the one person that they want to be friends with, rather than attempting to be friends with 100 people. So we were kind of like kicking this idea back and forth, and it was just we were getting at like, and he moved around all over the country, all over the world, throughout his whole elementary to high school life, and it impacted his ability to make friends because he didn't have that same like stable friendship. So yeah, no, it's interesting that this sort of thing comes from that same origin, where I started to think about like, why am I still friends with this person? What is this bond? I don't see this person for years on end, but we're still friends because we make time to talk to each other.
Also, I think there's a little element of fantasy that I don't know. I mean, like, I probably wouldn't be able to measure this on any sort of scale, but if anybody like me was a product of the television and having the television as your babysitter, you probably saw many a TGIF show or, Family Friday Night TV, family sitcom where, kids were best friends for, years and years, and they grew up together and all that stuff. And I wonder how much of that is actual. I do know some people that have like had friends since, kindergarten. But I also do wonder if there's like a little bit of a tainting of the well with that type of stuff, because it gives you a skewed perception on how friendships work. Because I always found myself as a kid longing for, like a childhood where I could have, had a friend that I grew up with, So.
No, that's based on moving around, right? Like that. That creates what would anciently be called like a lack, right? Because for someone like me who, like, I have this one friend that I've had since I was 12. That's my oldest friend. I'm 30 now, so it's 18 years, and it was because I didn't move around from city to city. Right. So that's where this notion of friendship can definitely disconnect. But I feel like at the same time, reconnect on this notion of virtue. Right. Because no matter where you are with today's technology, you can still be friends with somebody else. It's just whether or not our characters will make us want to talk to each other.
Right. But I also think that the product of adulthood puts distance between friendships. And I see, at least anecdotally in my own personal experience, the friendships that you've had longer tend to last a little bit longer into your adulthood. As somebody who is in, well into my 30s, the prospect of making new friends is crazy to me. Like,
It's
I wouldn't even know where to begin. I wouldn't even know where to begin, to be honest.
I saw this meme of like relationship memes. And it's like once you get out of a relationship and get single, realizing you have to tell your whole life story to somebody else to get into
Oh my God.
And it's like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go through the whole process of explaining myself again.
When I was younger, I was and single. I remember thinking about writing like a little book, like a little journal.
Here you go.
Yeah,
Here's
it's a
my
little
life story.
manual.
If you're
Just
interested,
pick it
let
one
me
day.
know. If
This
not,
is the
it's all
Ayla
good.
Constitution. Read it. Know
I'm
it by
just
heart.
saying,
We'll
I'm
talk
just
again next
saying.
week.
if you're not
The Ayla
interested, go ahead and just keep
Constitution.
that. I got multiple copies. You don't have to ever meet again.
It's true though. I mean, no, because like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to cover. I think that's interesting and relevant, but also like kind of a drag. And so it's like if you could just give someone the bullets, then that's good.
Oh yeah. I think there's a lot of sunk cost, and this is what I mean is like friendships are much easier to develop and nurture when you're young. As you get older, it becomes increasingly difficult to have new friendships, budding friendships. I think my stepdad has a huge social circle, and he's in his 60s now. But it's all people that he's known since he was like pretty young in
But
his
also, your
teens.
stepdad is pretty cool. Like I would hang out with him.
Oh well, yeah, he is cool. He's definitely cool. I'm not denying that he's a cool dude, but like most of his friend group are all the people that he met when he was in his teens, into college, some in high school, all of that stuff. And you just had such a big circle of friends that they all just stayed friends over time. But I think the struggle of adulthood becomes increasingly clear as you get older.
So as you get older, your life becomes. I'm just straight gonna become a Jordan Peterson parrot for a minute.
Well, then talk
So-
like him.
I can't speak Canadian. I'm an American. We talking freedom. What the hell?
Yeah.
Are you... No, he's doing a good job. He's doing good work for the freedoms of those knuckleheads up there.
Mm.
But no, like so by the age of 30, your life has become idiosyncratic on multiple dimensions, right? So as you get older, that means your life becomes more and more uniquely lived. So as you try to make friends, as you try to build friendships through common experiences or via way of virtue, as we'll call it, it becomes harder because there's more experiences to account for. There's more things that we have to connect on. Right? This is my idea of it. But I don't know, as I've gotten older, I've definitely made the mistake of making friends of utility or pleasure, friends of virtue, right? Because in theory, these are supposed to be sort of grading scales, right? You have your colleagues, or you have like your acquaintances, even outside of work, right? Acquaintances, you tell certain stuff to. You get past the level of acquaintance, now we're hanging out or something like that. And I tell you a little bit more, you tell me a little bit more, and then that's how you kind of like figure out the virtues and become closer, right? It's just as you get older, that becomes, I guess, a lot more difficult to do in order to connect, because things like you become more set in your belief system, you become more set in what's right and wrong, moralities, things like that. So it's harder to bridge that connection. But I still feel like it's a thing you can do.
Yeah, you certainly can do it. I just think also that, one of the main factors is people get busy. Like people just get busy with their lives. And I think I don't know if there's a handbook on friendship, but maybe there should be. I'm sure there are.
Actually, you'd be surprised. Friendships
Hmm.
are oddly magical. So, like, yeah,
Hmm.
there's so you're starting to touch on this thing called planned activity. That if we want to be friends, it's not good enough for us to have goodwill towards each other, right? But if we don't do anything about it, if we don't try to do something like this and talk and hang out, we're not actually. Are we actually friends?
Right. I have goodwill for a rhinoceros, but it's not my friend.
Yeah, right. Like I've goodwills for tons of humans that we don't hang out, right? Like your friends on Facebook. How many of your friends on Facebook do you actually just hang out, just sit in a room silent and look at each other very awkwardly?
Well, none, but yeah, I get your point for sure. Yeah, no, most of my friends are on Facebook. I mean, those are just like extended people. Funny enough, I've never actually gotten above Dunbar's number on any of my socials. It's like I plateau. So Dunbar's number is that the average human can only really keep about 150 people in their memory and mind. That most humans only have the capacity to maintain and attract to maintain and sort of consciously interact with about 150 people. And then after that, it becomes the diminishing returns.
Have you ever ran into somebody you forgot existed?
Oh yeah.
It's so awkward.
Your brain just deletes them from your life.
There have been some people I walked by and I fucking jump back. I'm like, oh yeah, you exist, and then I feel like an asshole for not remembering that they exist.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question. So, we were talking about Fight Club last week, and maybe off the air, I think at the end. But in that movie, he talks about his little joke, the single serving friend. Now, I know that there's I feel like this is the type, one of those things that defines you as a person, whether you can engage and enjoy in small chit chat with people you don't know versus not, So if you go and you're checking out at the register or something like that, do you just stick to the business or do you chit chat and get chummy with the person? I get really chummy with people.
Oh, really?
And I do. And what's funny is the other day, no, I am pretty extroverted and I'm chatty, but you just run into people. There was this couple that I saw walking around downtown Long Beach, and they asked me a question, which made me realize they were from out of town. And so, of course, being curious, I asked them, "Oh, well, what are your plans for today?" And then they proceeded to share some pretty sad plans. I was like, why would you go there? No. And then I was giving them all the tips. And so we became friends. And now we're totally friends. The chick moved to San Diego. We're going to hang out one of these days. But
oh yeah, one of these days. You got some dates on the calendar.
Unless Nick wants to drive me, I have to wait until I can drive again. So, there's that. But I've noticed people can really open up to you immediately, depending on, what's going on with them, how the dynamics are. And I'm just curious, because sometimes we think that time governs the quality of our relationships, when you can meet somebody same day and have very quality interaction that's memorable, and your brain doesn't dump that experience or that person. And I wonder, because you talk about friendships being magical, if you did have a friend that was just for one night. I'm not talking about a one night stand, but even that could be a friend if you think about it in a different way. But just someone you just bump into and you're like, hey, you want to hang out? Yeah, sure. Okay. And you never see them again, but you're always like, that was a great day. That to me is a valid friendship as much as anything. So it's it's again, how do you think about this topic that?
Yeah, but you're starting to dive a little bit. Look, I'm assuming that you never talked to that person again. Or if you talk to that person, it's very
Oh, you'd be surprised. I made a friend
I
at
was
like
at
a
we were at the
knitting
beach
shop.
on Monday, and I turned my back for 1 second, and I looked around, and she was talking to 2 people. And it's just like we
We
hadn't
were having
even
a good
been
time.
there for more than a minute.
Ayla, don't talk to strangers.
I know. It's
Don't
all
get
You
into
about
know,
vans.
the
strangers.
world is a
Because
happier
somebody's
place
looking
if
for
a stranger is just a friend you haven't met,
I,
right?
well, I appreciate that about you, definitely, but I also think that you have the convenience of being a woman and doing that. I don't think that men have the same ability to be as extroverted.
I
Because
saw RRR.
no, not the way I've seen Ayla just chat people up and make friends. Like I wouldn't be able to walk up to some random girl and just talk about, highlights or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, no.
If you're really interested, it was organic. Yeah.
Maybe.
So there has to be some sort of common ground that you have to reach with the person, regardless.
That's true.
And you
I
have
have
to strike
seen
that up almost immediately.
I mean, the
So-
common ground for Ayla is we're standing in the same line.
but so for example, we're standing in the same line, right? But she looks down at the person's fucking, I don't know, eating a hot dog. She's like, I really like hot dogs. And then there's a 20-minute fucking conversation about hot dogs.
And it's awesome. There was this guy. We were at the mail ship store. Nick had to drop me off. And this guy was mailing snakes. How do you not talk about this? This is crazy. And it was really funny because he was the way he was talking about it. It sounded like he was like kidnapping somebody. And then it was like contextualized. And and then it's like, what is it like to own a snake? How many snakes do you have? Do you hatch the snakes? Like, who's buying snakes? And
our acquaintances, you can kind of look at these like hookups, like friendship hookups. Like we're friends for 10 minutes and then we're gone and we never hear from each other again. But we have something common to base our grounds on. An acquaintance is like the first level of friendship. It is a friendship, but it is a very shallow friendship. For example, if that person with the snakes called you at 3 a.m. and asked you to give them $2,000 to get out of jail, are you going to do it?
I wouldn't even give my bestest friends $2,000. I'm just being honest. No. Well, I mean, if they were in jail, I guess. But no, I mean, like I would help hook them up with the bail bond company or something like that. There's workarounds.
Well, the $2,000 is the bail bond to get the next 10% of the actual like $20,000 or $200,000.
Joke's on you. Get a richer friend.
Yeah, right. Friends of utility, people that can open doors for you.
Yeah,
right?
there you go.
So this is one of the biggest problems in like being famous, right? The famous people might look for deep friends of virtue, someone they can open up with and actually connect to. But because of all the utility they have by just simply being famous, they have to discern between who's just trying to get the door open and who's actually meaningful. And this is actually like a big problem for a lot of people. It's a big problem for anybody that makes a decent amount of money, right? How do you gauge these friends? It's a problem for anybody that crafts something. Hey, Nick, come on, man. I really need that knife. If you could give it to me for free, I'll give you $20 next Tuesday.
No,
Give me a knife now. I'll give you $20 on Tuesday. I'll gladly pay you a knife on Tuesday.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, I guess if you were just somebody I didn't know, then that would probably feel a little bit usury. But yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, anybody who has a large amount of resources always needs to be conscious of whether somebody's taking advantage of them or not.
Yes, and this is a problem with that becomes true with all friendships. How do we establish this friendship where we're not using one another to the point where it becomes annoying for the other person? Like, remember, within the system, it's okay to use a friend for something, right? Like, if I have a lawyer friend, then can I use this lawyer to bail me out of this situation? Sure. It becomes okay. And hopefully this friendship is built off of a virtue, the qualia of the person that you're engaging with, right? But this is what the fundamental difference between a single serving friend, pure pleasure of the spectacle of the moment, or you can even regard it back to utilitarian, that you get some utility out of observing a spectacle of somebody carrying a snake or something like that. But true friendships always have to reside deeper.
Mhm.
I guess, but I guess how do I phrase this without being like a total drag? Um, like I guess okay, it's interesting. Okay, so let's say you're dating somebody, right? Or you're casually dating someone.
Different. We're
No, I
talking
know,
back.
I know, I know. I'm making a point. So you're dating somebody. Eventually, there gets to be a point where there's the talk. Like what are we? And so it's been interesting for me to look back in my life and friendships and to remember times where you would expect a close friend to behave a certain way and they didn't. And then you would expect an acquaintance to behave a certain way and they didn't. And in both cases, you're totally surprised. I've had acquaintances show up for me more than people I've known for years and years and years at certain points in my life. And so, for me, I think it's interesting. I mean, because I don't know, like I've had so many meaningful connections with strangers that I don't like this idea of I don't know,
Where
maybe like
where are all those strangers now? Do you still
feeling.
talk to them?
Some I do. Some I have had really meaningful conversations with over social media over the
Yeah, you
past
might
few
be.
years.
This might not be the best point with Ayla. Unfortunately, it's not
Yeah.
exactly
No.
the same.
I would. Then I
I'm a
would.
weirdo like that though. And
Yeah.
also
I
I guess
would go to go for it.
well, I just mean to say that it is very hard to define friendship in a way that's going to be applicable to every every friendship in the same way, because people are
Yeah,
different and
I think
times are
also.
different.
I think also, I've had friends that have considered virtue friends, deep friends that have fucked me. You know what I mean? So I don't know if even that designation vaults it above utility in some respects, because like you can have deep friendships with people who don't
Hmm.
treat you well, you know.
Mhm.
So
So
we're now touching on this idea of one, mutual goodwill.
mhm.
If both parties have the idea of goodwill for each other, and then two, what do we do when we have a friend of virtue, somebody that we thought were of similar character or of estimable character, something like that, and they fall out of grace? How do we respond to that friend? And what should we do? Should we just cut them off? Should we forgive them and let them
Cut
back
them
into our
off. No, I'm just kidding.
get
No,
off with their
mean,
head,
I-
their hearts?
Nah.
it totally depends on the conditions, right? Because I've had friends that have just dropped off the face of the earth before. I've had blowouts with friends before. But I do think that it is the conditions, and I think what we're getting at here too is reciprocity and communication, right? So if there is a power struggle between the friendship and one person is feeling taken advantage of, I think, in my personal opinion, it should be on that person that feels that they're being affronted in some way to address that as an issue if they respect the person as a friend, because they would assume that the friend is not trying to hurt them or offend them or do something, right? But I so often I do feel like communication becomes one of the sort of degradation points of friendships that you would consider virtue based or sort of character based.
Yeah, no, I would agree. We're getting, uh, we're kind of. I had it and then I lost it. We're getting to intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
Friendships, especially friendships of virtue, are incredibly intimate. So when you kind of break this sort of stuff, it, as the other party, it does feel very, like very hurtful. Um, it does depend on the friendship. Does depend. So you can. There's two paths to go here. You can obviously cut them off, or I guess three. Second one being, you can tell them you disagree with them. You can tell them that you don't think this is the right thing to do, blah, blah, blah. and they may do it anyways. But the most you can do within this kind of mindset is to tell them like, hey, I think this is messed up, but I'm going to reserve the judgment for yourself. You give them the moral agency. And it seems like in those things, that's the best way to keep that friendship, because even if they do something wrong, it doesn't affect you that much, so to say, and you can still be there for them. Again, remember, friendships are doing good for the sake of the other, regardless if they do something bad to you in the immediate.
Yeah, maybe not regardless.
If they do it over and over, then
Yeah.
of course you have to discern to cut the person out of your life. Like,
Well, and even that has varying thresholds, right? How many people, like, do you know that'll put up, with abuse from people ad nauseum just because they have a higher threshold for that particular person? I've known people who do that all the time, and then they snap on somebody who, looks at them the wrong way.
Yeah, of course.
So,
it's that, like, the friendship is definitely should be a push and pull if it's of character, right? Especially as you kind of bounce out of the moral grounds of each other, right? Like, hey, don't fucking do that. Pull this back in. You try to curtail somebody's behavior, X, Y, and Z. But there's still the quality, though, of like, you'll still be there for that true friend, even if there's something deeper there, where even if they keep screwing you over and over again, you might be getting screwed over half and half less, but there's something magical about that friendship where you're still willing to be there, at least within the stoic sense of betrayal. Where
I think it's more of the romance of it, but yeah, I get what you mean. I think it's romantic to be the person that is willing to be the bigger person. I think that's romantic and sort of rewarding in of its own self, to be honest.
Well, true. To ad nauseum, but even the Stoics were like, bestow many pardons, accept none. So in other words, try to accept the behavior of your friends around you. Try to understand, but for you yourself, never grant that pardon onto you. Never seek no pardon. Accept your failures, but always be graceful towards the people around you. But that's a limit. The truly depraved, in theory, should be cut off. But that becomes a hard part of the friendship, right? Where do you decide where this person is so damaging towards you, you're willing to cut them off, even though you've bonded over similar life principles or virtues?
Yeah, I think that's a really provocative question, because it does get one thinking about sort of boundaries and maybe enmeshment patterns, maybe attachment styles, maybe not thinking clearly, because like Nick, you were talking about reciprocity and communication, and I think communication's tethered to what I was hinting at before, where it's just because person A thinks they're in a close friendship with person B, that doesn't mean that person B thinks they're in a close friendship with person A. Sometimes that's not communicated very well, or it's communicated verbally, but then by action that's not matching what the words are. And so, I don't know that you have to cut people off. Obviously, I have a rule of 3. If you screw me over 3 times, that you get 3 chances, and that's it. And I mean, like actively try to hurt me. Like most people aren't like that, and so it hasn't really been an issue. But I will also say that in other instances, you just tweak your definition of the friendship. So whereas you might have thought they were a close friend and they maybe accidentally screw you over from maybe lack of thoughtfulness or just disappear, I don't know, whatever
Intentionality is definitely something you have to consider.
Obviously. What I mean to say
somebody
is that
doesn't mean to hurt you, then you're not going to be as offended.
Right, exactly. And I think though, but when it comes to maybe that utilitarian type of friendship, like if you define a close friendship as someone who will show up at 2 a.m. every time you call, well, at that point, are you just living your life as
how many times are you calling?
Right, exactly. I mean, because now you're just a supporting character in someone else's life. Like you have a life too, and there's an enmeshment that gets developed there. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like it's really hard to sort of tease that out, but I also feel it's like pornography, right? That classic definition where it's like you don't know it till you see it, and it sort of gets at that subjective nature, which is why communication is so important because we can't
Okay.
read each other's minds.
So then, what's the most trivial action we can do to show each other that we are friends of the highest esteem?
Trivial?
Yeah, most trivial. Like you don't have to show up at 2 a.m., but what do you have to do to prove to me that we're actual friends versus utilitarian friends or pleasure-based friends?
I think even the introduction of that question kind of negates the dynamic.
What do you mean?
In a sense, what do you have to prove to me? Well, what do you have to prove to me?
So I
You
would
know what I
say
mean?
that I would have to be around
I'm saying
you.
in a general sense.
No, I understand where you're coming from, but I feel like we're escaping the question via like syntax, like syntactical sugar. Like I get the opposing like what do you have to do for me? But if we're talking about relationships, what a friendship is, we all need something out of the relationship, right? And relationships of character, one where you think the person is of an actual good person that you want to spend time around, what's the minimal thing you can do to attempt to show that to the other person? Where, hey, Nick, I really think you're a great guy. How do I show you that I want to be friends? What's the most trivial thing we can do to try to show?
Oh, let's go get lunch. I don't know.
I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess maybe that gets into like the love languages, right? Like, do you want to spend time with the person? Do you give an act of service? Do you say kind words to them? Because again, it's like friendships, they are relationships and there is love in friendships. And so I think that a lot of like the verbiage you use with romantic entanglements can sort of be applied in terms of how we construct our visions of these interactions.
I like that you brought
I
up.
think. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it, Nick.
No, I think if I'm trying to see like what is the bare minimal threshold, in my opinion, for me, which is very subjective, I think maybe just communication. Just all you have to do, like if when we have podcasts and stuff, if you're unable to make it, you just say, hey, I'm sorry, can't make it. And we have that communication with each other. If you're having a hard time, you'd let me know that you're having a hard time so that I can have the opportunity to listen or to talk to you and vice versa. So I think communication really is just where my threshold is. Like, I don't want to expect too much of anybody because that's my own thing. That's not necessarily anybody else's fault, but I think where I have to draw the line is lack of communication, because then I just feel like, well, you just don't give a shit enough to even send me a text message or like to call me if something's going on, so I think that's probably the baseline for me.
I think I like that baseline because I was gonna like, what if I just like your Facebook post?
Right? Yeah, I know.
What
some
if
people feel like that's enough. Yeah.
What if I send you a quick meme through Messenger? Yeah. Are we close friends? Are we super? Are you gonna call me at 2 a.m. when you go to jail, Nick?
Right.
You better.
Right. Well, honestly, man, I just don't know if there is any friend. I mean, like once you get close to 40, it's like I don't know if I should be calling any friend at 2 o'clock in the morning. If I'm in jail, I should probably call my wife, or like my family,
Hey, man.
And I think that's
situations where I don't want to call my wife when I'm.
Look, I understand. Yes, absolutely. And there's always a bro that has got your back for sure. But like I just think that I've taken a cynical approach or out view on friendship as I've gotten older. but not in a way where I value them any less. It's kind of actually the opposite. I value the ones that I have way more than I ever did, because I see how easy it is for people to drift apart. And I think that for me really punctuates the fact that I have friends. I have great friends, and I'm really, really grateful for them, because it's super easy for people to just drift apart. And
Yeah. Yeah,
so.
of course. And I like how you brought up the action. Like you say communication, but communication is an action, right?
Mhm.
You have to be able to reach out to that person and discourse with them, have a dialogue, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, no, that I feel like as you get older, it becomes harder to open those doors in, just because your life has become so complex, right?
Mhm.
And then even as you get older, imagine a 60-year-old trying to relate to like a 20-year-old, right?
Yeah.
There's so much ground to cover that it would take a bunch of time before we can really lay on the table who we are as characters, right?
Mhm.
And of course, in that age dynamic, there might be some differences. The older person may have wisdom that the younger person doesn't have. The younger person may have some new sort of way to think about something the older person never had.
Mhm.
So like that stuff can still work as new friendships. It's just a lot more ground to cover due to both individuals' age.
Mhm.
Right? That's why it's easier to be friends with somebody that you've known since you were younger, because you've had all those experiences together,
Definitely.
or at least within the same timeline.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I would argue that friendships of character, friendships of virtue, go beyond any sort of time dynamic. Because these sort of virtues, these sort of underlying principles on how to live life are universal. You can debate.
I think it's only known in retrospect. I think you only know if you have a friendship of virtue after that lapse of time, right? Because while you're in it and you're not talking to that person, does it feel as close? I'm not sure. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think you can probably put a stamp on a friendship when you look back at it. I don't know what you can do when you're looking forward into the future. You can say that you'll do your best, but
Oh
there's
man,
way too many variables.
you don't want to know what I so getting back to this intimacy thing, there's it's not transactional, but the way that we start to build a friendship from an acquaintance to one of character is by sharing information about ourselves, right? Private or public information, whatever it may be, whatever you're comfortable with, you share information with the other person. But it's not wholly transactional. It's not like I tell you one thing about my childhood, you tell me one thing about your childhood. Now we're +1 in friendship. It depends on it sort of depends on the two people. But
What in a mutual? Oh.
as we grow, we should be able to tell each other things and then assume that we have each other's privy. Assume that I'm not. You tell me something, I'm not gonna go tell. I don't know, my bar friends about what you told me, right? And then that's how we start to build the intimacy of the friendship.
So by having good counsel.
Hopefully.
Secrets.
Well, it's funny that
shared secrets. So there's like, as you build up like bigger social groups, there's the shared secrets within a group. So like, let's say, us three, we did something worth holding a secret to. We went into the Nevada desert. We dug up all the old Atari ET video games, and we sold them on the black market.
Yes.
So we have that
plausible.
we have that shared secret, and we keep that between us. That actually builds our friendship. The other thing is that we now can point to other groups outside that did not dig up the ET and laugh at them, because we made all this money from digging up a shitty Atari game made off of nostalgia, but they didn't.
Yeah, it draws a circle around your group.
Yeah, you make fun of the outside group. And this happens too with pairs of friends, where you can make fun of the wider friend group, but you two have this very special deep bond, and that intimacy builds up through secret sharing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Which is kind of an interesting mechanism. I guess it's a display of vulnerability, right? It's allowing the person with sensitive information. It's basically putting the destruction of yourself and your ego in the hands of that person. You know,
Yeah,
depending on the level of secret, obviously.
so what you're doing is you're being vulnerable. You're handing over that part of you. You're doing it for the good sake of the other. You're like, hey, I trust you with this,
Right.
and that person should, in theory, give you something to hold on to. But the reciprocity is not always there. Communication is always there, and the two parties may not always have mutual goodwill towards each other.
So it's interesting that we're talking about friendship, because you're reminding me of this reel that I saw from this Instagram TikTok therapist guy. And it was really funny because I saw him, basically he's laying out who should you surround yourself with. So essentially, right, like laying out the fundamentals for friendship. And it was really funny because I was listening to his list and I was just getting this hot feeling where I was just like, who the hell meets these freaking requirements? This is out of control. And so, of course, I go into the comment section and everybody in the same kind of way was sort of just like, does this person exist? Do these people exist? And so let me just tell you some, because I was like writing down some of the stuff as one of you were talking. Okay, so who should you surround yourself with? People who don't make you feel clingy, who celebrate small victories, help you do hard things, enthusiastically support your hopes and dreams. They don't give you mixed messages, don't make you feel small, don't compete with you, can't wait to hear about your day, love your good office drama, hate the people you hate, love the people you love, warn you about people that will let you down, know when to push you out of your comfort zone, but accept you as you are and not make yourself feel bad about yourself. Makes you feel perfect about your imperfections. They feel like real family. They center you, stabilize you, challenge you to grow, evolve, and become who you truly are. Same guilty pleasures, same humor. You have the favorite teams. They cherish you. They get nervous for you. They pick up the slack for you. They get your favorite chip without you asking. It goes on. It goes on.
You're demonstrating. But is there?
What I mean
Hold on. Is there any onus on the person to do anything?
No, it's just every single person screening to make sure other people are sufficient enough to be their true diehard supporting character friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are these people doing anything with their lives? Because it sounds like they're going to be taking a lot of time to cater to your needs.
Right. To center you at all times. I mean,
so there is something that this is touching on, though, is that friends tend to have similar interests, right? They tend to want the same things, hold the same outlooks on certain ideas, blah blah blah. This creates that echo chamber effect if you build enough big enough, and that's just because it's easier to get along with people with similar ideas. So some of, like, we share similar ideas, but I've found the most interesting engagements have been people with that maybe share one thing in common, and that's it. We have one similarity, and talking to them is always a really interesting conversation. Now, and when you're doing something like this and you're trying to find a minimal amount of ground to build a friendship, there's a lot of patience that you have to give, because the conversation is going to get rather dramatic in today's times. There's going to be a lot of emotion behind it, not so much like a clear, logical conversation. But it's some of the more interesting friends that I've had. I've had friends that I've almost cut off because we've almost had nothing in common, but I didn't. I'm happy I did, because they just provide a completely different perspective to a situation.
Thanks. Kidding. But
no, you're funny. But so, like, I tend to push back a lot on the self-help, self-esteem sort of movement, where it's like, just get in your comfort zone and find all the people that can reinforce that comfort zone and stay there forever. only because it doesn't help your growth as a human. But that's
Well, it's
me
funny.
valuing growth as a human rather than a comfort zone. There are tons of people that value the comfort zone over the growth. So like this is even with like friendships, this is where it can separate where if you're somebody that wants to have friends that all keep you in the comfort zone, you can pursue that. But I don't know from my angle because friendships are they're magical because they're wholly subjective. So from this wholly subjective experience, I don't know if that's the best friend that you should be building. For me personally, it is not. For other people, it may be.
It
Yeah.
just doesn't sound like a friend to
Um,
me. That sounds like a caretaker.
That,
Anyways, Kayla, go ahead. Sorry.
that may be what you want.
Can I? Okay. So I was just going to say, you were talking about shared interests and how that can sort of lead to an echo chamber. And you're right. I don't think you want somebody that's just same across the board who doesn't challenge you. But as you were talking about the benefits to someone who challenges you, I think similar to shared interests leading to an echo chamber, I think that too much challenge can lead to rupture in the relationship. And so it's sort of like ladybugs, where too much of a good thing becomes not a good thing. It's too much. So balance and moderation, as with all relationships and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a fair observation. The question becomes though, it's like you once you start like what kind of friendship you want. You may want a rupturing friendship with somebody that can radically change your mindset. You may want to find somebody that can challenge you on so many levels that you don't know what to do. You have to take a step back. You may never talk to them again after that. But the in like a bigger spiritual sense, the job of that person was to make you step back and self-reflect. Their job is over. They left, and then that's the end of
Mhm.
it. So that like just the same as having somebody that constantly supports you, tells you you're never wrong, you're great, and everything you do is perfect. That can be valuable in some cases as well, especially when you're um, in
Dire
deep
straits.
dire straits. Yes, next, thank you. When you're
Well,
like that, it doesn't even matter if they're lying to you. It's just good to keep you alive.
hmm yeah, and I think it's interesting. I've had a lot of time to reflect in the past year with this injury, and just for anyone who's had surgeries and open surgeries and long recoveries, it's just isolating. There's really no amount of interaction that's not going to make it feel isolatory. So you reflect a lot, and I remember at one point thinking about friendships and kind of, yeah, like how I think about it. And I think, where I've landed on, and of course this could change, but I think it's sort of like love without expectations. And I think that's sort of how I just am in a lot of my relationships. And I think it's kind of like Nick was saying, how it's like, you have certain experiences and you start to kind of like stop expecting things from people, but not in like this sad way, just in like I am taking responsibility for myself and my life and my well-being. And there's people that I love and find interesting, and I'm always open to being surprised. And that means that when I'm not expecting anything, any act of goodwill or kindness is a genuine pleasantry and can be enjoyed in that present moment without there being this heaviness of, are they going to be at my bedside when I'm dying alone at 90? Like, who knows? You could be in a car accident and you're dying alone on the side of a highway anyway, even if you have 150 close friends. It doesn't matter. So I think letting go of that sort of, expectation gives you the freedom to sort of just enjoy where you are, what you have, and be present.
Do you ever expect ill will out of people?
I don't, which is why I'm so surprised when that happens.
It's okay because I do. So yeah, we balance each other out.
Nick, you're a little suspicious.
I'm suspicious as fuck. Um, no, I try to give my friends. I always give the benefit of the doubt, but yeah, I'm weary of people.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
As I've gotten older, like I think I went through a period foolishly in my late 20s or like mid to late 20s of openly trusting. For some like retarded reason, like somebody dropped me on my head when I turned 26 or something at 25. And actually another reason, someone passed away close to me, so I went dumb for a few years. But that like to be suspicious of people, I feel like is a better way to start this friendship, to start any friendship, of being like,
let's hear this argument.
yeah, it's like, oh, what do you really want from me? What are you doing over there? And all right, we're working utility. You give me something, I'll give you something. This is now purely transactional. And then maybe somewhere through those transactions, we find out we like each other's company. So now we've reached pleasantries, right? It's pleasant to be around you, so let's hang out. Let's start to like learn about each other more. And then through that angle, you can start to build friendships of virtue, where you actually learn about the person's character throughout all of it, whether it be like a traumatic moment they're going through or not. But like I was really there's this guy I knew. We got along sometimes, and his grandfather was passing away. And I knew what that was like. A couple years before that, my uncle passed. I had some great grandparents pass. And all I could do was give the dude a hug and be like, hey, man, if you want anybody to talk to, I'm here. But it's like those beginnings of suspicious, like you can do whatever you want with that. You could talk or you could not. Fuck it. But at least you're starting to plant the seeds to grow towards like that sort of virtue thing. And I know I'm kind of bouncing all over the place.
It's caution. Yeah, it's caution. And I wonder too how much of it is also like because you might be a cautious person, you also sort of tend towards relationships that are sort of not like what Ayla was talking about with the Instagram post, right? Because I wonder, like, there's got to be people, like you said, Mike, there are people out there that'll probably fulfill those needs for somebody, but you have to expect them first. And to me, it's like I've never had a checklist of things I expect from somebody as far as friendship is concerned. I mean, like I have a few stipulations, but it's
stipulations. I like.
Yeah, I mean, communication is decent. Just having like a decency is fine, because ultimately I'm an adult. I have my own shit going on. Whoever my friend is an adult and has their own shit going on. Yeah, we're probably not going to hang out every day, and I'm not going to call you every day, but we still have each other's back. And if things get tough, we're there for each other. I think that's like as much as you can ask for without like creating your own little village. Ooh. And just living with all of the people that you care about.
Ooh, we're getting now into the duty of friends. Is there a duty to friendship?
I mean, it depends. In so much as I think that there is a duty that we sort of have a social contract of reciprocity. So I guess your duty would be to maintain that balancing act of not giving too much as your own self, but also not taking too much as well. Because the dynamics just get shifted way too hard when that happens, and then that's how everything falls apart.
I gotcha.
Yeah, if there is a duty, it would be to just maintain that sort of, copaceticness.
Well, that's what I think in the beginning. I qualified it by just saying it's a relationship where goodwill is extended mutually. I think I'd add that clarification, mutual goodwill. Because, I mean, I think as long as you're interacting with another person, and you mean well, then wherever the friendship goes from there is all bonus, you know? I mean, you could make a friend for a day and you're cool. Cool.
I
And if it's for a week, it's like, hey, we're friends for a week, you know? And I also like that you were talking about the sort of like shared interests. I'm a big fan of hobby-based friends, like friends based around activities, because I think that also takes a lot of the pressure off. You know, you're spending time, you're building memories, and the rest comes eventually if it's meant to. Uh, because I do believe also in the magic element too. You know, we meet people we're supposed to meet for reasons that we won't know until we look backwards on it, like Nick was saying.
hmm, I feel like we're using the word friend to define multiple things.
We've been doing that this whole episode.
Mhm.
I don't know.
So like especially with regards to duties of friends.
Duty.
Hey, I've been there multiple times. If I consider you my friend and you're going through hell, guess what? You got a passenger, no matter what it is. Like I've done some things where I'm like, I don't like if I was alone, I wouldn't do this. But you're doing it. I'm here with you. I'm gonna take this ride. Because as your friend, I feel like it's my duty to be there next to you as you go through this. For as far as I can stand, right? I have my own limits. But as far as I can stand, if you're going to go through hell, I'm going to sit right next to you, which is
It's-
something you would do for your hobby friends.
Yeah, but it's also a paradox because as the other friend, you shouldn't expect to put your friend into a compromising position that the otherwise normally wouldn't do. So this is where the paradox comes from. Like I won't expect of you because like I've told all my friends this. Anytime I move, I say, because I love you and you're my friend, I'm not going to ask you to move. Help me
He
move.
does.
That is the
We
way
have
I
a
show.
special moving fund just so
I
we can
do.
hire movers.
Yes,
he
because
hates
I'm not going to ask my
doesn't wanna do
fucking
it.
friends to do something that I don't even want to do. You know what I mean? Like,
on a weekend when our time is so precious.
Yo,
anyway.
that's great. But if y'all are free tomorrow between 2 and 4, I got this
you
futon. I
gotta
could
move.
do without.
No, and see, that's where the reciprocity happens because
Right.
I'm not going to ask you to do it, so you don't think of me when you need someone to do that. That's not the type of friend I am.
Yeah, but I mean,
rude.
like I said, like this depends on every person. Like if you were to ask me to help you
Love you too,
move,
Mike.
if you were to ask me to move, obviously I help.
I
But
know
I
you would, but I
appreciate-
will never ask you
I
because I love you
appreciate
too.
Yeah, but there are like
You'll
there.
be in a moral paradox if Mike asks you to help him move one
I
day
will
because you'll
be.
be like, shit.
I will be.
So
I'll
I
do
had.
it. But
I'll give a great example of this, right? And this is something that that I really wasn't prepared for at the time. I have this buddy. This buddy has a girlfriend, or not or a boyfriend. It's a significant other. It doesn't matter. And the significant other buys a phone off of Craigslist. Turns out that phone was stolen. So my friend is going to go ask this person for the money back, and says, "I don't know what to do. Can you just be there? Can you just be with me during this time?" I don't know what's going to happen in that whole situation. I could go there and somebody pulls out a gun. But because it's my friend, it's like no matter what, I got your back. Yeah, I'll be there for you. And even as you're standing there shaking, if you are, I was scared shitless. All this went down in a parking lot. The other person didn't know I was there. I saw everything through my rear view mirror and just was kind of there to make sure if anything went sideways to at least be some sort of backup, right? And even if I wasn't, the fact that this friend reached out to me and asked me to be there, even if I did nothing there, the fact that I was in the parking lot or at the location may help. So it's like this thing of like even if you're scared, is it your duty to get that thing done because you're actually like you're deep friends with that person? Or is this something that transgresses your friendship contract? Those
Well, I
are
mean,
all.
Or is it the
depends on your
nature of
taste,
you?
right? Yeah, and your threshold. I think it depends on your threshold for tolerance and all of that type of stuff. I would also venture to say, like, you know, I would hope that the friends that did that also considered your safety. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And,
of course.
you know, like if they're putting you in a dangerous situation where you have to be the arbiter between, I'm assuming this person was acting for using you as a number so that they didn't have to get into a fight with a bunch of people, which then puts you in a position where your safety is at risk. So this is the paradox I'm talking about of this reciprocity. If you care about somebody, you don't want to put them in a position that is going to put a strain on the relationship. And you can't know when something is going to put a strain on a relationship and when it doesn't. You can say that it's not going to bother you, but you don't know that until after the fact. Like I can say that, you know, Big Mike's not going to be bothered. I can say that Big Mike's not going to be bothered for me asking him to move, but I don't know. Maybe he tweaks his back and it can't work for 2 weeks, and then he's out of a job, and then he hates me because I'm the fucker that made him move. And you know,
because you loaned somebody else $2,000, you don't got $2,000 to help give it to him, so now it's like a whole situation, an entanglement.
But I would argue that you're removing Big Mike's agency. Just because you asked Big Mike to move doesn't mean he's going to say yes.
No, but he did say yes, and then he hurt himself.
Yeah, so then that might be on him because he agreed to do it. You didn't make him do it. You didn't pull out a gun and say, "You're moving my damn couch." You asked him, and he said, yes.
But I preyed upon his goodwill, knowing that he's my friend and will likely say yes. It has a higher hit rate of saying yes than anybody else.
And this is why I say that friendships without expectation are the best friendships, because if you ask and you genuinely are happy to receive a no, that's a good friendship there. But if you're asking and your asking is expecting a yes and you'll be upset if someone says no, then you're telling somebody, but you're being subversive about it. So again, it's like you have to sort of be responsible.
That's how we got you. We got some friendship.
It's because you're Christian. You got to understand, right. All these folk use the Christian guilt against us to get us to do stuff. But no, so there's a certain point too where that reciprocity, there's the expectations. Ayla's right, where if Mike tells you no and then Nick just tore into Mike, like, how dare you saying I'm your friend, I've been around for this, I did this and that. That's absolutely wrong. But there's nothing wrong, like, hey, can you help me move? And Mike says no, and then Nick's like, all right, I'll just move it myself. But if he says yes, I don't think it's on you to feel bad. Right? Yes, there are people that will
it's not on me to feel bad at all, but it is on me as a friend to have him in mind when I'm asking him to do something. I wouldn't ask Big Mike to move, but if I was needing to get bailed out, I know Big Mike works overnight. He'd probably be one of the first people I call. You know what I mean? And he would probably do that for me. So it's like, it's about picking your battles too, right? Like you don't want to take too much from somebody. And so when you have a big ask, you got to make sure that you're not doing too many big asks in a row. And maybe, your big ask isn't necessarily necessary for that person.
I'm sorry. You say I have a big ass. What are you talking about to say?
When you got a big ass.
What? No, I'm a big ass. I don't have a big ass. Those are
easy confusion.
It's funny. I have to laugh at this moving analogy because, like, how many of us have had friends who have a truck that end up hating all of their friends because their friends only want them for their truck, and every weekend they have to haul something, and they're like, "God damn this truck!"
Hey, I would, as someone that's owned a truck, learn how to say no. Very valuable.
Good. No, saying no is important. And, as you guys were talking, I'm reminded of what Mike was saying about secrets and how that can bond people together. And it reminds me of this movie I saw recently, which is really good. I don't remember where it's streaming.
I know what you did last summer.
No, well, I guess it's kind of the same. But in this particular movie,
very, very close.
Yeah. Well, this was a movie where you had these like 5 guys that are middle-aged, and
do they open up a burger stand? No, I'm sorry.
No. They only get together once a year to do some sort of like hobbyist mountain climbing, rock climbing.
I met with you. Are you talking
Is
about a boat with? I'm sorry, I'm being really silly.
maybe. Well, so what happens is they're gonna do this climb. They meet these two girls, and they start having drinks around the campfire. One of the girls wants to go to bed so she can climb in the morning. The other one wants to hang out. One thing leads to another, and that girl's dead. And you come to find out that these guys had a similar situation where maybe there was like a hit and run kind of situation, or they beat somebody up to the point of death. And like the ritual, I don't know if that's it. It's definitely got a lot of climbing in it. They're chasing the girl the whole time. But what's interesting about it is you find out that the friends aren't really that close friends. They all hate each other. But the one guy who instigates everything has them under like a hostage blackmail friendship, such that if they don't do what he says, they are going to be punished for that or something like that. So it made me think about like the moral character of a friend when you're meeting people or whatnot. I've never met somebody and been like, I wonder if this is a morally good person. But that matters at some point. And I don't know if it's like, if they tip their waiter really shittily, you're just like, side eye this person, or like how we determine that.
I think it's
So as
less
not to be those guys.
analytical. I think it's less analytical like that. I think that's the magic, right? That's probably one of the elements of the magic too, is helping you suss out bad people. But that takes a lot of trial and error and practicing, because you have to know what to look for. But it becomes subtle stuff like Ayla. Yeah, how they treat wait staff is big. How they treat animals is another one.
And Mike was right. It is the ritual.
Yeah, he's always right about that stuff.
I text him anytime I'm watching a new horror film. It's our thing.
I got really hyped over I Melt With You because I don't think anybody in the world has seen that movie but me and the one person I made watch it. But this group of friends come together after years of not seeing each other, and something happens because they don't feel the same way anymore the way they did when they started their friendship. So you like morality and morally good is kind of shifty because you can become friends of character with somebody but not be quote unquote morally good. Think about like a Bonnie and Clyde, right? Where these soulmates are bank robbers. Soulmates implies best friends. Best friends imply the most intimate type of friendship. That sort of thing. So morally good, like try to build people that are quote unquote good is okay, but it can be misguided based off of multiple things, right? For example, if we were in Weimar, Germany, if we wanted to be friends based off of culturally, morally good things, it might be a little shady with respect to history. But you might still build really good friendships based off of this quote unquote morally good thing. So I feel like it all depends, right? But we do have clues, like if somebody kicks a dog, unless I'm somebody that likes to beat dogs, I don't want to be friends with that person. If somebody doesn't tip their waitress, that to me is not that big of a thing. But
how they treat the wait staff is though.
Oh yeah, that's true. That is very true.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody treats customer service kind of shadily, no, even that I try to forgive them because they may have never worked a customer service job. They may be born in a place where they never had to do that. So I can't really say that they're
Who raised you? Who raised you? No, I'm kidding. I'm just saying.
By the way, I messed
got
up
no
the
manners?
movies. It's actually called The Ledge. The Ritual is a very good film also, but the rock climbing movie that I was talking about is called The Ledge.
I think you watched The Ritual too, just recently.
I watch a lot of horror films while doing physical therapy. Gets my adrenaline up. keeps me going.
But yeah, no, I think we're sort of winding down here. I guess I can. There's one question I do want to ask. Would you rather have a few friends that you know everything about, or would you rather be friends with a bunch of like a I don't fucking know, millions of people.
I don't want to know nothing, honestly.
It's a really good
No.
point. I was thinking the exact same thing. I don't want to
This
know
is why-
everything about anybody. Ayla and I still keep mystery about each other. Don't want to know everything.
It's true.
No, I get what you mean, though. You're like, the depth of the quality versus quantity thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think
But I wouldn't call it quality. I would just call it massing information. Would you rather mass a bunch of information about a few people, or would you amass a bunch of information about a whole bunch of people through this vehicle of friendship?
What are you, a social media company?
would you rather data mine a small group of people?
And all bunch of people,
Yeah, I mean, like,
right? You're data mining your friends and then making judgments based off the data.
Absolutely, you are. Yeah. No, that's very apt. I don't know. That's a pretty tricky question, because I don't know if I'd want to know everything about a person. I don't even think anybody would want me to know everything about them. Like, is that
Whatever's tolerable.
like
Everything
right.
with
The maximalist idea. Yeah.
Yeah, with
But
respect
I don't
to the
know.
person that you're with.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Like, it would be kind of cool to know a little about a lot of different people, but I do think that you'd probably feel like you're missing a little bit of that depth. So yeah, I would rather know deeply about a smaller grouping of people than to have a wide knowledge, or like a thin knowledge but a wide knowledge of a lot of people.
Interesting. Yeah. I think I'd be the opposite, actually. Wait, what did you want a small group of people, Nick, versus larger?
Yeah, I was
Is
just
that what
saying,
you're
like,
saying?
I probably also, for me as a person, I'd probably only really be able to handle a small collection of people anyways. I don't know if I
Yeah.
could, as a person, handle dealing with like a large amount of people. I don't know if
Right.
I would have the capacity for that. So
I think you would. I'll tell
Maybe.
I'll tell you something very sad or very cynical about that sort of thing. Ayla, what do you think?
Oh, I thought you were going to tell us something simple. You know, I'm okay with knowing a lot of people. I mean, just because strength in numbers, you know what I mean? It seems to me like at any given moment throughout the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, one can become in a loop where they're leaning on a small group of people too much, and then they exhaust their resources. Whereas if you have a lot of different people that you interact on a responsible level, it should be good. I mean, I don't know. It's tough because I don't know.
yeah, I just think
I
about
mean,
the distribution of reciprocity, right? It's like, how
Well, that's-
can you maintain that
But
over
that's
a
the
large group of
thing.
people?
I haven't really experienced a lot of reciprocity from close friendships, but like medium friendships, I've seen tremendous reciprocity. So to me, it's less about the relationship and it's more about the person. And if you have good people in your life, someone will eventually pop up when they need to, I guess. Well, like, okay, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing is it's like there's not a lot of people I would count on for much. And yet when you do, you'd be surprised at who shows up. So I guess that's what I mean to say is I'm just always surprised. So why narrow the relationships? Just
You're
keep it
casting a
open.
wide net and hoping that you catch a big one. I get you. That makes
I
sense.
get ya.
It's a good tactic, right? You're not putting all of your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, okay. I guess I'll share my perspective. Is like I've had some friends who I met in college that grew up in like orphanages or bounced around a lot of homes, kind of like you were saying, Nick. And when you move around a lot like that, you start to realize that having an openness to your surroundings and the people in your life breeds a happier day to day than being like, oh, I've got these 4 people and now I'm moving out of state and I'm devastated, only to get 4 more close people to move out of state and be devastated. And people die. We all get old. I mean, stuff happens. So yeah, to me, the world is a happier place if,
Yeah,
I'm just
you're
surrounded
like
by
the
joy.
you're like the summer love. That's what you like.
I
You want
am. I
the
absolutely am.
you want the summer love of friendships where it's like it's very intense and great for a short period of time and then you just disappear.
Well,
Hold that
yeah.
memory. I mean it's
But
not
then
bad.
people
Honestly,
pop
it is
up
quite
again,
romantic too.
Yeah, I think that's the good word. I do romanticize interactions and yeah, having died a number of times, I think that when that's happening, it's not like people will come to mind who weren't that special, but there was like a moment there that's like it just touches something and it doesn't have to be obligatory. It doesn't, you know what I mean? Like there's just beautiful moments in life where we connect with other people, and in that moment it's powerful and profound and deeply meaningful.
A stranger is just a friend you haven't met yet.
That's the thing, man. It's true. So chat up your next person checking you out somewhere,
Yeah,
or
or
stop in line, or dance in your car while in traffic and look to the next person who thinks you're stupid and dance anyway and make them dance. I mean, why the hell not?
Or be like me and Mike and suspicious of everybody and not have any friends.
a stranger is just a serial killer who hasn't broken into your home yet.
That's right.
God, could you imagine like on the news, I get like totally murdered or something, and it's like back to this episode. She was too trusting, and I know. It's what I think of every time I leave my window open at night, which I do very rarely. It's just that moment of like, oh God, I don't know. But
you see, luckily, as a nihilist, I could just chill and be like, yeah, if you kill me, it's no worries. I'm going to open up this window. I don't give a shit. Yeah, go for it. Jump through this window. Stab me. Just make it quick. Make it painful. We're going to have some problems. But sure, I'll be weeping at the end. It'll be fine.
How about you, Mike?
Sounds like a friendship.
I know, right?
Yeah, you clearly communicated your expectations.
Right,
and then
you just end up crying.
No, those are my romantic relationships. You don't know my kinks. Don't start kink shaming me on here.
This is so dark.
Maybe
Sorry,
I like the edge
listeners.
of a knife on my...
Well, knife play is a thing. I've seen it.
I'm not yucking yums. It's all good.
Yucking yums.
I can only speak about how I lead my life. It's always depth based. I will at times recount it shocking personal stories to discern if a person's gonna hang around or not. Like I just don't really fucking have time to play with you. So I got some heavy stories. You want to hear one? We're gonna load it up, shoot it. If you don't know what to do with it, that's your problem. Deuces. We could keep friends at a level, but if you're gonna hang around me and try to talk to me, then you're gonna have to deal with some dark shit. It's as simple as that. So it's always for me the depth-based relationships. Maybe just because of like the things I grew up around, like just personal experiences, the breath stuff isn't light enough to work on a bunch of people, and I haven't mastered how to make the small talk work.
I'll tell you, it is so fun to have like a small talk relationship or a hobby-based friendship, and then you hang out a little bit more, and then you drop some truth, and they're just like, wait, what? And you're like, yeah, I'm still happy. It's all right. I don't know. I mean, like, I guess you could disclose that stuff as like a sort of filtering, but I don't know. I mean, maybe
Maybe just hold
way
that
next
back
time.
for, like,
No. I mean,
the fourth play date.
no, I mean to say that like who gets kicked out that you might need, who if you had waited for instances. So that's again what I mean. Like I don't like to put restrictions.
Was that a sentence?
I was trying to.
Did I have an aneurysm?
No, maybe I did.
What did you say?
No, okay, because so Mike was saying that he likes to be upfront about sort of that depth of his character and soul.
Mhm.
And that's great. I mean, that's why we're friends. We connect and all that stuff. But, it's funny because I've had moments with new friends where I might have been like, we don't jive or something. You know what I mean? Like there might be some filtering that's going on.
Do you
But then
think?
I'm like, why don't I just stick with it? And then they surprise you down the road and they become a really close friend. So again, I don't like.
I wonder if
putting
you
limits on
think.
stuff.
I wonder also if you treat your sort of single serving friends in the manner and like. I wonder if you're actually acting as your genuine self to those people because you won't see them again.
Who is you?
Ayla.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, if I know,
So maybe
if I
that's
know
why
I'll
it's more
never see you
enjoyable for
again,
you.
it is. Yeah, because
Right.
people really open up, and then sometimes
No, but you
see
get
them
to be
again.
you get to be authentically yourself without any
Yeah.
repercussions of a long-term or very deep relationship. You know what I mean?
I could see that. Yeah, for sure.
Because you have to. I mean, like in a very deep relationship, you do have to play a compromise game about who you are as a person because that's what this dynamic is. You have to compromise. They have to compromise a little. You have to meet in the middle somewhere. And so I'm wondering if maybe there's a certain level of excitement about knowing that you're only going to be interacting with this person for a very short amount of time, so you can be as 100% authentic to your true self as you could. Whereas maybe in your deeper relationships, you have to make concessions that you wouldn't normally want to. Or normally, maybe not normally want to, but you make concessions and it's refreshing to not have to.
Well, okay, maybe this is similar because I'm not sure if I'm understanding exactly, but it's bringing to mind an email I got recently, and the person was saying that it was a joy to get each of my messages and really fun to work. Like it was just a really pleasant email about the interactions. And I try to be really authentic and. If you're going to do something, you might as well have a good time while you're doing it. So I try to, have a fun time at work. But, it's funny because, like, you would know. I'm dropping F-bombs a lot of the time. And I don't think that's something I only show to, like, super close friends is sort of the, like, irritated, aggravated F-bomb self. Maybe I show it to some people up front. It depends on the situation. But my default's usually, like, just be pretty pleasant, share joy. And if a relationship gets more meaningful, then you kind of slowly peel back the layers. Yes.
Okay, yeah. It's a little bit different than what I thought it would be. Because I was wondering, like, because I've done situations where, like, if you're not going to interact with a person ever again, you can just lie to them. And it doesn't really matter. Like, I remember me and Eric went out to this really swanky bar once, and we just sat down in a reserved area and pretended to be the people that reserved it. And when people asked, we just started pretending like we were like business consultants or something like that for some firm, like just totally put on personas for the whole night. And people just talked to us the entire night. And it was like some joint, like a company or a corporate gig where there were a lot of people who knew each other. But it was kind of interesting to put on a hat of somebody who I wasn't to a group of people I knew I wasn't ever really going to see again. And there was it was, to be fair, it was a memorable time. I mean, nobody was hurt. We were just, we were putting on personas that we normally wouldn't put on,
Right.
Trying to pretend to be like, big shot business guys.
I've only done that one time and it blew up in my face. So
no.
All right. So 19. I was 19 years old. I was going to West LA College. And as young 19-year-old Michael, I didn't fucking know which way was up or down or left or right. I didn't know if my dick was screwed on the front or the back. I didn't know anything.
Hypotenuses, none.
What? I mean, I get high on pot news? No. Didn't know nothing. And I go to this party with this local rapper at the time. Good friend of mine. Did some sound engineering. I hope he's doing great. I think he's still continuing his music career, which is dope.
Sounds
Somewhere out
fun.
in Las Vegas or something like that. But so we go to this party, and I'm the youngest one by like a good 10 years. Everyone in there is doing something. And or yeah, doing something worthwhile with their life, let's say, or it's like a typical LA type party. And here I am, this community college student, stuttering computer science, all fucking nervous and don't know what to do with myself. I get a drink and this guy and like just hang out on the wall, just like being a wallflower. This guy walks up to me and starts talking to me. He's like, "So what do you do?" I'm like, yeah, I'm studying graphic design because at the time I was really interested in graphic design. I don't know why I didn't say I wasn't studying like computer science or programming or anything like that. Unfortunately, this guy was a professional.
Graphic designer.
Oh no! Oh
That
no!
was the
Damn.
last time I ever pretended to be anybody. We got in there, like,
You got
I
yours.
got out of my depth. I knew nothing as like to what he was saying. I was like, "Get him out of here." And I'm pretty sure within 5 minutes he was like, "That guy's not a fucking graphic designer."
No, this is
Oh,
where
that's
you
amazing.
gaslight them with overconfidence until act like he
Oh,
doesn't know what
no.
he's talking about.
You see, at the time I was not a big poker player, so there's
Of
no way
course.
I was gonna like Doyle Brunson and
Double
just go
down.
all- yeah, bluffing, and we're gonna do it. I got the 10 dudes. Fuck you, we're doing it.
I know, it's talking
That's it.
design.
But that
That's
was
so funny.
that was the last time I tried to do anything like that. Now my compromises in parties just comes to like not correcting people, and I've done this with other people who have suffered from the disabilitating sickness known as intelligence. Because if you correct somebody at a party, you're not liked at that party anymore.
Yeah, nobody likes the guy that corrects people.
Yeah, right.
It's just,
So like
it's just a
one of the
fact.
big things I learned as to like how to gain friends in the breath-based sense is just listen and laugh, and if they say anything wrong, whatever they meant, like try to connect to the word that they meant, because they usually have the right idea, but they say the wrong word.
Oh yeah.
I
And
do
then
that all the
happens a
freaking
lot.
time.
Yeah.
All the time. And there's
is-
words that like I remember in college it was the worst because people were always like pointing out the most mundane thing and you're just like, "Oh, I don't even want to talk anymore. Like I gotta go home and think about what I just did." So awful.
Oh man. Yeah.
But you know, I definitely feel like I need to go pretend to be someone else sometime. Like, I don't think I've ever had the pleasure. And like, I had a
It's
friend.
fun.
It was the best story. She said she was in France for like a summer with a host family for like a language program.
Perfect opportunity. Be somebody else.
Well, that's what happened
Right.
is on the flight back, she didn't want to stop speaking French. So on the whole flight, she pretended like she couldn't speak English and could only speak French.
I'm sure the flight staff loved her for that.
You sound like those Quebecois fucks.
Yeah.
Like Canada, like people from Quebec will not like they'll like act like they don't speak English.
Oh yeah.
They'll only speak French. It's like, Canada's first language is English. The second
yeah.
language is French. You don't. That's no.
Well, that
you
was
can,
like,
you can do that. You can pretend to be whoever you want. It's a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
no, it'd be super fun. I think the only thing I've done is like take liberties with something that might happen. You know what I mean? Like I was in what do you like when you pitch something? I was in this like surf reality show pitch for like a hot second. Like it was never gonna happen. But I sure as hell that week when I was surfing, like if somebody was like, "Oh, da, 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 da," and you're chit-chatting, you just like work it in. Like, why not? And then you're like, I'm never
I've
doing
only-
that again because it's
Like
I don't know.
ever since that graphic designing, I've never had the mind to and didn't have many opportunities. Like usually if I'm at a social gathering where I don't know I don't know anybody, then I'm just chilling in the back and don't talk to anybody.
Why a PE teacher?
Right of all
Why
things.
look at the PE teacher?
And Coach
I gotta
Carter
go
over
right.
I mean,
here.
I think your actual job is probably cooler than that.
I can see Mike with the whistle and just being like,
Yeah,
"Y'all got
yeah.
a mile."
No
Go.
running.
Go.
Like a whistle.
Yeah, but it is fun to put on a different hat once in a while, and especially if there's not going to be any consequences. If it's in a social
No,
setting, I'm not telling you to like
no,
deceive people
anytime.
or-
No, but I can't lie. Like kind of like Mike's little story. It will always bite you in the foot. Even if you try just a little bit to put on airs, like it's gonna. I don't want the exposure one day. I just don't do it. It just
So
freaks me out.
So I have like relaxed my identity, and this is usually when I'm trying to gather information. So yeah, I have tried to play that where like I don't tell, especially if it's something that or like a place that can be that if anybody finds out that I'm there, it can be difficult to make them understand, I guess, just like without like some sort of disgust factor. I'm thinking more of like, so like I've been to a fair amount of brothels, and within those brothels, I'll usually change my identity just to keep things anonymous. But my real goal there is to ascertain information about the women that work there. I'm really interested as
Do you
far
go
as-
under a nom de plume? Are you like Chuck
Nom de
Ramrod when you go in?
Oh no, I just go in as a first name John, last name
God.
Connor. That's what I
Okay,
go.
there you go. Yep.
My bank card says something different, but you call me John, and we'll be fine. No,
Let's see. My favorite occupation at a party is interested in fill in the blank.
Favorite occupation? Like the favorite occupation of the person you're meeting, sort of like what would be the most interesting occupation?
I don't know. Keelan, we need clarification on that one. We'll
I feel
answer.
like it's like I like what you like, and you get that person to keep talking about the thing that they do, and you just like, oh yeah, no.
And by the end of the conversation, you know their father's last name and their mom's maiden name and the last four digits of their social.
Oh gosh.
You're just fishing them the whole time.
Yeah, like look, all of this is just information gathering, in my point of view, and there's nothing wrong with it.
And that was the question. Okay, yeah. So let's say you're at a party, you meet someone, and they're the most interesting person you've met. What's their occupation? Not a PE teacher.
Interesting question. Yeah.
Not a PE teacher.
Oh,
It's gotta be something cool.
So the most interesting woman I ever met at a party, she worked concierge. She parked the cars at the hotel I was staying at. That was her occupation at the time. What she was studying though was conflict resolution in international diplomatic relations.
It's a student. I like it. Sort of specialized student by night, valet by day, concierge by day.
Hey, she got me headlong into politics, so you could thank her for that.
I'm trying to think about like a super interesting occupation. I'm like trying. That's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've met anybody with like a really crazy occupation that stands out.
You ever met
I
somebody
know
that
who I
worked
met.
squad? That'd be interesting.
It's part of a what?
No.
Firing
A
squad.
firing squad.
Awful. No. I was gonna say I did meet a guy that worked at the UN, and fascinating life story, fascinating road to get to the UN, and fascinating work. So many stories. So many stories.
Are y'all still friends to this day?
No, I wouldn't categorize that person as a friend, but as far as meeting an interesting person at a party, absolutely. Also, international human rights lawyers are a good time because they have seen so much stuff. They hate life. They're alcoholics, and they will just tell you stuff as it is and make you totally rethink so much stuff that goes on in the world.
Oh, dude, just hang out
wild.
with lawyers. Just hang out with any lawyer. Lawyers
Yeah.
are all like that. They're all alcoholics. And
Well, yeah, I wanted to be an international
Same
human
lawyers.
rights lawyer, and then I met this one person who was just like, "You don't do it; it's gonna just kill your soul." And I was like, "Oh, dang, okay, think of something else."
Yeah.
What about
But
you,
yeah,
Nick?
no, it's just single serving friends though.
Hmm. I think it was I think that I knew a guy. I still know a guy who's a prop master, and he works, in the movie industry.
Oh,
Um, I
fun.
used to go to his house a lot, and he had everything. Like it was a little bit hoarders like. It was a little bit hoarders like because he had so much stuff in his house, but it's all from movies and stuff like that. So it's like it was like kind of like walking in a very cluttered museum of cinema, which is kind of cool.
That was like my
You know,
friend that shaped surfboards.
like he
So
just
fun.
knew, like it was one of those things where like I know a guy where I can get, this type of chair and this very specific type of chair from this year. Like I know a guy that can give them to me. Like
A Ron
he had
Swanson.
those types of, no, he just had those types of connections in the industry because he's a prop master. So when a movie needs something, he's the guy that has to go find the thing that, that they'll put in the movie. So
It's pretty cool.
He's a property master.
mhm.
He's master of all the properties.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, he had a pretty interesting life, or he still does. He's still doing it.
You know who else I think has an interesting job? This is going to sound so boring, but I actually think it's really interesting. People who they estimate the damage on site of like an insurance appraiser or something like that.
Are we just getting back to Fight Club?
No, I'm
Sounds
not.
like it.
No, I
An
know a real
adjuster.
person. Yeah, I know a real person who she was telling me some stories, and I was like, yeah, that's a really fascinating occupation. I never thought it touched on all these different,
You kind of have to be a
things.
detective.
Yeah, you have to be
Yeah.
a detective. You have to know a little physics. You have to have like, I don't know, like good, I get good detecting skills. You're trying to suss stuff out, and good reporting skills, and you travel, and you see some crazy stuff. So you have good stories. I think I'm a fan of stories.
I think
Any
you are.
occupation with good stories,
And
I'm
you like
down
this-
with.
Yeah, that's great. Cool. All right, I'm sweating. Are we? Where are we going with this?
This friendship stuff.
I'm glistening. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
I'm like a donut.
I think we've gone over most things in friendships. This like weird nebulous topic, what it means, but I don't know. I guess the last question is: are you happy with the friends that you have?
All
No,
of them
no, I'm just
except for
I know that's like a very yes question, but I'm curious if
yeah,
anybody.
all of them except for Big Mike. That guy just makes me so angry. No,
yeah,
I love Big Mike.
seriously. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, of course.
Kidding.
I think we have actually a pretty cool group of friends, and like when we do get together, it's always an amazing time. Oh shit! Sorry. When we get together, it's an amazing time, and like we do podcasts together, we talk, we hang out. I'm very, very satisfied.
Go
and
on
I think
hiking trips where we accidentally leave one person behind and have a good story after it. Sorry, Mike.
oh,
Wait, when did
Right.
you
And
leave?
Josh.
Josh.
Oh, different mind.
No, we have a
Yeah.
track record of taking friends camping, and then like our friend is like in a near
I
death situation.
swear, I thought like you stacked up and you were like, do you remember that time we went to Bridge to Nowhere and I limped back? You left me behind, Mike. I was just going to be like, damn, Ayla, holy fuck, I wasn't ready for that.
Mhm.
We
Yeah, I
all-
don't
we
think you've
all-
had the pleasure yet of us abandoning you in nature, but it will happen.
Oh,
and I
kid,
am already sorry.
I love nature so much. There's no way. There's no way. Give me 1 second. I gotta go grab this doggo. What are you
Mm.
barking at, buddy? 2 seconds. Sorry. But yeah,
Oh,
no,
sure thing. Well, while he's doing that, I think it's good to discuss the animal friendships that exist in the world, because an animal doesn't have an interesting occupation. An animal doesn't have good conversation skills. And yet, like, we're such friends with dogs and other creatures that, like, what's the magic there?
It's the same
goodwill.
magic that's between humans. It's the non-verbal thing. It's the je ne sais quoi, as the Quebecois would say.
Oh, the je ne sais quoi. Mm-hmm. A more
Yeah.
prop.
Yeah, no, that's all I got.
Super duper, Mr.
Nice.
Cooper.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that was a good one. Good one, guys.
Thanks,
Nice,
friend.
Mike. Good job. So
did we solve anything? Do we know what a friend is?
We know we are in the same place that we started, but that's okay.
Yeah, no. I think a friend is something difficult to define, which is why having no expectations is a good rule of thumb. In that it is hard to define the thing.
Just keep them in the
Much less
box, and they can
expect
be whatever
something.
you want. It's Schrodinger's friend.
Be friends with your dog.
Don't ever look at them.
Put them in a box and never acknowledge them, and they can be whatever you want.
I would say if you always put others before you, you will have friends everywhere, regardless of the losses you have to face.
Apt.
Yeah, strangers are just friends you haven't met. It's a friendly world.
Yeah.
Fuck that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yay!
All right, y'all. Well, thanks so much for tuning in tonight. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. A special thank you to Mike for curating this conversation for us. It was a great conversation. Let us know what you guys think. Thanks to Keelan and Big Mike out there. We love you guys. Speaking of friendship, very appreciative of yours. And thank you so much for commenting along with us. We appreciate you guys so much. And we appreciate all of you guys listening out there. Thank you so much. Please consider giving us a thumbs up and a subscription to our YouTube page. It would really help us out. We're trying to grow that audience, and we can't do it without your help. We have a network of podcasts we do with our friends. It's on Thinkering Talks on Facebook, and we do a show basically every week. Tuesday nights is when we start. It's Keelan with If Numbers Could Talk. And he is on at 8 p.m. on Facebook and on YouTube. And go check him out. He's also on Spotify. And then we have Tuesdays and Thursdays is Dijon the Mustard, a good friend of the show, has a Twitch channel. It's called Strawberries and Coffee, where you can go check out his Twitch streams Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10:30 p.m. We also have Screen Time Continuum, which is Wednesdays and Sundays with Keelan. And we're on at 8:30. You can find us on Facebook and on YouTube. And Friday nights here at Exofathom, as always. Stay tuned for next week. We don't know what we'll be talking about, but I'm sure it's going to be a good conversation. Ayla's going to be leading that one, so stay tuned. And thank you so much out there. We appreciate you. Until next time, Cogronauts, stay out there. And we'll catch you on the next Exofathom. Good night.
Make some friends.
Or don't.
No,
Yeah.
go make some friends.
Make small talk.
Or
And
don't.
toodles.